You may not know me, but more than likely you've heard my work. I made my living writing music for TV shows, commercials, theme parks, and attractions from New York to Abu Dhabi. In April of 2014, I received an unusual challenge to compose a piece of music that would commemorate the centennial of the Armenian Genocide, to give voice to those who had theirs taken away. In my youth, people would often ask me, "What are you?" Nobody knew of Armenia, let alone the history of its people. But now, through this music, I had a chance to take a step back and chronicle my heritage, so that I might discover the answer to that very question. My story began a century ago. My father came from Izmir, Turkey at the age of 2. My father's parents wanted to evacuate Turkey as a result of the genocide, with Armenians living within the Ottoman Empire at the time. My mother, actually, her father decided to move from Turkey. They went to Greece, where my mother was born, and then they went to Syria, where my uncle was born. But from Syria, they came to Cuba. And they came to Cuba because they were told at the time that there was a bridge from Cuba to the United States. So as a result of that, there was quite a colony of Armenians who got some misinformation.
My grandfather was a hardworking guy. He had a shoe store and supported the family, sent them to private schools. In fact, in Cuba, there was an Armenian school, and they went to Armenian school over there.
Then at 16, she came to the United States.
Bulwark of the American form of government is education. For true democracy can exist only among a people prepared from childhood for the responsibilities of citizenship.
This is a house.
This is the front door. Front door.
I didn't know English until I was 5 years old. I can speak better Turkish than I can Armenian as a result of the fact that my grandparents, pretty much on both sides of the family, had to learn Turkish. They needed to assimilate so as to not be identified as Armenians. We had a good childhood, you know. My brother and I, Mark, we had our neighbors wanting us to play baseball. There were front porches where people would chat and have talks in summer nights. My parents argued a lot, so as a child, we were under some consternation with two people who didn't quite get along. It was a fixed marriage, actually. I was somewhat introverted. One of the things that really created that introversion was going to elementary school and finding in your lunchbox Armenian food. There were no peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but we did have pilaf, shish kebab, hurma, sarma, and these are all Armenian dishes that were, to this day, so tasty. But when you're asked by some kid sitting next to you, this Anglo-Saxon freckled white kid, and I say white, well, I'm white, but I'm dark. So at the time, they called me Darky.
Yes, it's delicious sunbeam bread for a real zing of energy. You get nutrition plus energy in every slice. Eat grand-tasting, wonderful, energy-packed sunbeam bread.
I told my mother when I got home, please make me peanut butter and jelly because I want to be like my friends. I started playing an instrument when I was about 7 years old. There was a man from a music store who was going door to door and asking us if we wanted to take lessons. It was a form of expression that I really got into. I felt that I could actually move people. I could get a reaction from them. And that kind of inspirational attitude that comes from people is monumental when you think about a kid that's introverted. I had a classical clarinet teacher next to me with his clarinet, and we were both playing the clarinet simultaneously. I had a hard time with notes and rhythm. I'm really an ear musician. But what I did was memorize what he was playing next to me, and then after he left, I would continually practice what I had heard from him. And when he came back the following week, I would imitate exactly what that was. And he would say, "Very good, Danny. Danny, very good. But remember, you must count. You must count. You are counting the wrong way." "Okay, Mr. Lang, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just do it the right way." When I was growing up, I was listening to Benny Goodman and Artie Shaw and a host of other jazzers at the time. And so I would emulate them. I could play their phrasing. And I thought, wow, this is really inspiring. My first entrance into playing music with a band, with an organization, was when I was at the church in the cultural center. Well, there was an Armenian band playing there. They were playing Armenian music, but they also played American music. I integrated myself into the band by being able to improvise. I have a very, very good ear. And somebody from the group said, "Hey man, wail, that sounds great, wail, baby." "Kid, we'll give you $10 a night." And I thought, oh my gosh, $10 a night. Well, you know, at the same time, I was a packer at a supermarket called Food Fair, and I was getting 75 cents an hour. And I thought, $10 a night? This is a windfall. Being accepted by a band that also played American music gave me the freedom to express myself like those jazzers that I idolized. They were just unbelievably cool, and I wanted to be just like them, which meant leaving my heritage behind. In the late 60s, I started a band, and my brother played the bass, and we were playing a lot of jazz, to be honest with you. My go-tos at the time were the Dave Brubeck Quartet and John Coltrane. Playing jazz afforded you the opportunity to play a multitude of improvisation, which I loved. It was also the rudiments of jazz that took me to classical music, because I could see the same thing, whether it was in Gershwin, Rachmaninoff, Debussy, and as a matter of fact, Aram Khachaturian, the great composer who wrote that melody for Sabre Dance. That was wonderful. I thought, that is so cool, and it just opened up a myriad of colors to me of all the things that were possible with an orchestra.
I met Dan on a blind date. My best girlfriend was dating a member of his band.
A Sunday I thought would be good because a Saturday you're playing a gig.
And my girlfriend said, "What else do you have to do on a Sunday night? Let's just go out and have a nice dinner."
We went out, and we were in the back seat. My drummer and his girlfriend were in the front seat. I was a little overzealous.
I really didn't like him the first date.
She was appalled. That's how we met. We've been married now for 44 years, and I must say it's been a great ride. My income in '71 was $6,800 a year. And I thought to myself, you want to be doing music, but how are you going to leave $6,800?
Thought he was totally nuts because first off, I thought it was prestigious that he had a job teaching school.
You're going to get married, you're going to buy a house, you're going to have children, blah, blah, blah.
But to do music, I mean, that's sort of a fun thing to do, not something that you do on a vocation of any kind.
I thought if I could, I would play on the weekends and I would substantiate my weekend income by selling music, by selling entertainment.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
So I was selling that and my band at the time, and while I was playing in a band at some occasion, somebody came up and asked me if I could do a jingle. A jingle? I said, sure, I can do a jingle. What would it pay? Well, we have $1,200 we can pay you. $1,200, my God.
National Bank and Trust, your bank for all reasons.
And I pulled together a keyboard player, I had my brother playing bass, and I had a drummer, and I had a singer by the name of Ursula Walker. I think it must have run me probably somewhere near $700 in the overhead to do this. So I came up with this sum of $500, and I thought, $500? This is great. I started adding it up in my head. If I could do this at least once or twice a week, that's $1,000 a week. And if it's $1,000 a week, that would be like 50 plus grand a year. It didn't work out that way.
We would talk every day. And I had my business and Dan had his business. So we had a lot in common because we were dealing with employees, payrolls, and everything else.
The lowest point of my struggle through those years was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I came back into the office to put my instrument there, and I put my fist through the door.
I had some issues going on at my company, and I was coming to have Dan console me. And as I was doing that, I was talking about my problems. Instead, he was with his keyboard on the table. He said, listen to this spot, listen to that spot. I thought, well, okay, maybe this is a way of getting me away from my issues that were going on at work, but it wasn't. He was more interested about what I thought about the spot than me maybe jumping off the roof of my building because of the problems I had.
What can you say? It's the ups and downs of life. Like I've always told people, if you're winning all the time, that's kind of boring too, you know, so what's the point of that?
So some of the things that I've learned from my father would be never to give up. That's probably one of the biggest things, is never to give up.
Dietrich.
Dependability.
Dietrich.
Since 1893.
It's the most memorable because it still plays to this day.
My bedroom was right above my dad's studio at our house, or his study, where the piano was, and that's where he would write his jingles at home late in the evening. So when I was going to bed growing up at night, I was kind of put to sleep by him writing jingles. Not that his jingles put people to sleep.
They do.
That was a national jingle, and we did another national jingle for Whirlpool.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool makes it easier.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty special, you know? But would that be my legacy? As a matter of fact, I thought one day, God, you know, when I die, I want to go to that big orchestra in the sky and be able to conduct an orchestra that would deliver color to me. colors from the bassoon to the string section to the brass section to all these opportunities that you would have to be able to develop this multicolorful thing that would bring you closer to God. I thought if I could do that, then that's what my purpose was, to bring me closer to my maker. The Armenian Genocide was the culmination of a series of events that led to the systematic annihilation of over 1.5 million innocent men, women, and children. For hundreds of years, Armenians thrived under Ottoman rule. They were merchants, they were crafters, they were intellectuals. But at the turn of the 20th century, the empire began to crumble, and then introduced a new Young Turk nationalist regime. Armenians became second-class citizens, and as a result, they were subjected to overtaxation. The Turks would say that the Armenians were responsible for their own annihilation because they provoked the government. You had Armenian men joining a Russian army, and you know, Russia and Turkey were at odds with each other for many, many, many years, from the mid-1800s on up. Entire towns were pillaged, the women raped, and the children kidnapped. By 1915, the death marches had begun.
We were chided and we were chastised because of who we were. And then we were broken and beaten and almost ethnically cleansed.
It's just hard to imagine those things going on in our history. And the thing that's so frustrating about it is that it happened, it's over with, and it's still being done over and over again.
When I tried talking to my grandparents about it, they shut down. It was almost like they left those memories on the other side of the world. I started to wonder, was this chapter in history just going to fade away?
It's something that's very close to our family, I think, and to be living in a country that has such high values and thinks about genocide and Holocaust at such a high level compared to the rest of the world, that this country still cannot recognize this atrocity.
But it's also the type of people that have come through the genocide that have resurfaced, and they're strong. They have a positive outlook that shows we have to come together, we have to have the strength to love each other.
I guess my first exposure and experience of an Yessian was Flora, Dan's mom. She sang in the choir every Sunday. And then we came to know Dan and Mark and their wives and their children over the years at gatherings of friends. And that's how our relationship grew. One morning, I think it was about the end of 2013, my wife and I were doing some research about the approaching centennial celebration of the Armenian martyrs. And I said to her, you know, it would really be good. They're going to be doing so many things, but some kind of commemorative music, I think, would be really a wonderful hallmark of remembering the event. And Roberta said, you know who you really should ask? I think we were standing exactly where I'm seated right now, under this beautiful dome.
We were just coming off listening to a recital by violin players.
And I said, would you consider creating something? And I'm thinking big.
I didn't respond right away, but there was something that was running through me that suggested, oh my God, they would actually ask me to write something other than a commercial?
I'm sure it was in his mind and heart as well that this is not one little radio jingle that I'm doing.
Well, it's like we're talking Earth and Mars. You know, it's a whole other deal.
This has a further reaching effect globally.
Did I want to get overzealous about my reaction? No. Well, maybe that's a possibility. You know, we'll think about that.
So just like dough that is made, it needs time to rise, like when you make choreg.
Should I say yes or no? Because if I say yes, I knew that it would be a daunting task.
And Dan looked to me and goes, well, I don't know if I... He says, well, just think about it. So, of course, Dan went home immediately and went to the piano.
What really excited me was the opportunity to paint the past of a genocide that I had only imagined. And a melody started to evolve. And this melody came back from many, many years ago. The freedom. I was envisioning a place in Armenia where there were good times. Not happy, happy times, but at least good times in terms of normal life. They weren't encumbered by a government that was on their back to do certain things and to behave a certain way. There was peace. There was happiness. I heard a piano and a violin, and I heard the piano doing da 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 da. As it progressed, I heard other instruments, and my imaginings were that that lead instrument could also be a bassoon, because the bassoon is kind of this ominous instrument with a color that's very rich, very deep, and kind of guttural. And so you don't know which way to go with it. It could be a happy instrument, it could be a sad instrument. But in this case, I said, well, I think I want it to be more staccato. Is that playful? Yes, it is. But in a minor, it's kind of sad. So that's where it went. I imagined an Armenian family talking around the table, the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, whatever it is, that they're da 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 dee 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 da. I leaned on Rachmaninoff, I leaned on George Gershwin, I leaned on a lot of other cats that I thought, wow, this could be cool. There's some communication between them with this Armenianism. A time that was good, before the scourge.
We sit in his car and he plays it, and if I get a tear, if a teardrop comes out, he knows he did right and he leaves, he's done.
I can read music if you put it in front of me a little bit on the clarinet. Forget the saxophone, it's not going to happen. Forget the piano, it's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, for years I didn't know where middle C was on the keyboard. I know that's a travesty.
You know, you look at C, well, C, most people are going to go, could be.
When you're playing the piano, you're also encumbered by what you know. It's kind of like this. I have it in my head what I want to hear. I play it on the piano. I play the changes. And if I can't play a rapid section of a line over those changes, I will sing it. And I'll record it. The minor key, da da da, da da da, dee da dee dee dee. A little bit of a jazz chord there. And then I'll take it to the studio and work with very knowledgeable people over here. So that's kind of it.
Because as an ear player, he would come in and play, and then I would look at it, have to learn it, which was the hard part, and then go ahead and try and interpret something on the spot that would be something we both like.
Then I'm thinking this is the after B part to this. Da-dee-dee. Dan, is this what you wanted right here? No, it's this. Dee-dee-do-dee. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Can you make those notes a little clearer? Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, Dan, you're singing it different from the way that you did it before. I am? Oh, sorry.
And I give him something. It could be this and that and this and that. He might like it one day, and the next day we might go, no, it's not going to work. We need to do it again.
And then flip back to the minor. Invariably, I was able to get it down to a place where I started to really discipline myself about how I was communicating what I wanted to hear.
So that part should actually be more emotional.
Yeah, whatever I can bring to it. I mean, and often I'm listening to music mentally, and that gets in the way of what I'm supposed to be doing at any given point in time. And then sometimes I'm finding that I'm listening to music so much going through me that I don't hear anybody, and that's really problematic. My wife has accused me of having some dementia, this pervasive thing that's going through you all the time. I'm thinking music all the time. Stop, stop.
Well, it's very emotional. Dan would come in with images, and he'd explain this is what it is, and it's just unbelievable to see how he would take a melody and try and express the emotions of the Armenian people.
My dad was the sole survivor of an extended family of 72 people. And he saw the death of most of those people, including his mother, his sister, and his uncles and their wives and his cousins.
The second movement in particular was incredibly diabolical and demonic. And I was able to use a heavier bow, and that really translated into exactly what Dan wanted.
I wanted to make it big, I wanted to make it epic, and I wanted to make it dangerous. And I thought about all that, and I had to communicate all those things to Bill Wandell, who took it from where Kurt and I worked together this step further as for orchestration.
I say that we collaborated on the orchestration because he didn't hand the music to me, the recording, and say, orchestrate it, which is generally the way an orchestrator works. The sky was the limit as far as where it was going to go.
From there, we go to brass, and we go to a rhythm that's a gallop. And these are the Ottoman horsemen coming down the hill and ready to strike these innocent people.
I had to familiarize myself with the colors that Dan likes.
This is purple, this is dark, this is blue.
And sometimes I would get it right and sometimes I would get it wrong, and he would say, well, that's cool, but that's not quite what I had in mind. Here's something. And he would play something for me. So there was a lot of back and forth that way. The only thing Dan was concerned about was that it sounded the way he heard it in his head. And if it didn't, we kept on working it till it did. It's the freedom, the fear, and the faith. And understanding how those work story-wise. And Dan spent a lot of time explaining this to me and making sure that I understood what this was.
Kill, destroy, they dumped whatever was left in the Aras River. So that no Armenian trace will be left.
Even when we got to that pinnacle, Dan came up with the idea of doing a duduk solo there on the wasteland of everything. He's like, well, let's just bring it down with something even more stark.
We weren't the first or the last to face potential extermination. It's been illustrated by the Crusades to Native Americans in Cambodia, Bosnia, and Rwanda. It was the Armenian Genocide that inspired Adolf Hitler's obsession to cleanse the land of those he found unfit to live. What have we learned? We're fragile. Our sense of self can be stripped away at the blink of an eye. It's how we respond to these atrocities that defines hope, belief, and faith.
As a lover of music, I felt compelled to introduce Armenian Trilogy to my contacts with the hope of having it performed by Armenian Philharmonic. Maestro Edward Topchin found the music very worthy of performance, and the date was set for October 14th, 2017.
There isn't a better way that this could have happened. I mean, being performed in Armenia by the Armenian Philharmonic for the Armenian Genocide is, I mean, I don't know how you really top that.
To experience our heritage, to see where our people came from.
I had probably overthought being seen as a tourist in Armenia. I simply wanted to blend in, have my music be accepted, and if lucky, embraced. Now that I was here, the years of assimilating in America, those cultural notes were playing themselves in reverse. It's hard to put a finger on it, describing the feeling of returning to a place you've never been. You know, as a composer, you're a little concerned because you're coming into a different place and you don't know what's going to happen. As they were rehearsing, there was an argument between Topchin and one of the players, the oboe player.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, is this musician going to walk out and they're going to go on strike and this is going to be it? No. But it was a friendly argument about intonation and pitch. I feel so part of this land all of a sudden, not ever having been here. And I'm listening to this national instrument called the duduk coming through. It's a crying, weeping instrument. For some strange reason, I'm feeling a tingling sensation about this whole thing. It's just unbelievable. I'm starting to well up a little bit, to be honest with you. I can't say anything else.
I have butterflies, and I'm excited, and I'm happy.
I just hope that he goes into it calm and can be relaxed.
Nervous, but I know it's going to be good. So it's going to be what it's going to be, and it's out of my control now.
I'm not worried about a thing. I did the whole thing. I take full responsibility.
Pretty surreal. It's the moment we've been waiting for.
What is faith? It was faith that brought me here, but I can't imagine what kind of faith you'd need to be able to survive the push and the pull of such brutality that you could have the strength to persevere and pave the way for generations to come. They say history is doomed to repeat itself. Is division and destruction just part of human nature? Can we stop these cycles of hate by putting aside pride and fear? Can we look at each other and discover what we truly are? You are my brothers. And you are my sisters. We're nothing without each other.
Dan's Armenian identity, I think, is what pushed him. Dan took the chance to listen to his heart and soul, to pursue what the trilogy finally became.
He has a passion for music. He has a passion for his culture, for his religion, for creation.
My hope is that there's an appreciation on both sides, that they appreciate the music and appreciate what could be done by joining together between the West and Armenia.
It's not every day that you play something contemporary and you are very happy. Today we were very happy. Really very, very nice experience.
He will come up with the next thing, whether that be a singer-songwriter, whether it's another part to the trilogy. His passion is writing music.
No one knows where we're going. No one has a clue of our destination. It's just going down the road. So he should continue going down the road and shouldn't stop.
Sunrise, buried deep for years, it finally reappears to bring the morning. At last, a promise for me, a sky whose color has returned to light the fields, this land where I belong, this blood I feel so strong, to hear the even song, it fills my heart, and by the grace here on this shore, I gaze around and know all those who came before. They're more than memories. On every one of these, I see wings. I see wings. And though the storm is finally past, the birds return, so many broken wings, their song no longer sings. And to forgive these things, I search my heart, and by the sea. I close my eyes and feel their spirits come to me. They're more than memories. On every one of these I see wings. If only, my only, I could still touch you in the quietness. Yes, I still dream of this. Before the world went mad, a world so sad, I wake up and I know the storm has finally passed. The birds return, so many broken wings. Their song no longer sings, and to forgive these things I search my heart, and by the grace on sacred land I open up my arms and finally understand they're more than memories on every one of these. I see wings, they whisper in my ear before they disappear.